If you've ever found yourself replaying something small, a sentence you said a little wrong, a joke that didn't land, a moment where the room went just slightly quiet, and hours later, or even years later, it comes back, not as a memory, but as a feeling, like your body is re experiencing it all over again. Most people brush this off as overthinking, but it's not random and it's not meaningless. It's your brain doing something very specific. What looks like overthinking is actually a pattern. You say something in a conversation. Then later, your mind starts scanning it. Why did I say that? Did that sound weird? Did they notice? And suddenly, one moment turns into 10 versions of itself. Different angles, different interpretations, different outcomes. It feels obsessive. But underneath that, there's a system at work. Your brain has something called an error detection mechanism. Its job is simple: find mistakes and prevent them from happening again. But here's the thing: your brain doesn't just track physical mistakes, it tracks social ones even more intensely. Because for most of human history, being socially rejected wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Being excluded from a group meant losing protection, resources, safety. So your brain evolved to treat social errors as high priority. Even if the moment was small, even if no one else noticed, your brain still flags it as something might have gone wrong. Analyze it. That's why you replay the tone of your voice, the timing of your response, the expression on someone's face. Not because you enjoy it, but because your brain is trying to protect your place in the social world. And when you see it like that, it stops looking like weakness. It starts looking like vigilance. But there's another layer, because not everyone replays these moments the same way. Some people notice awkward moments and move on. Others relive them over and over. And that difference usually comes from something deeper than the moment itself. If you grew up in an environment where social feedback felt unpredictable, where approval came and went, or where small mistakes led to embarrassment or criticism, your brain learned something important early on. Pay attention. Small things matter. So now, it does. Constantly. You double check your words, you analyze reactions, you fill in silence with meaning. Not because you're trying to be perfect, but because your system learned that being slightly off could cost you something. Connection, acceptance, stability. So it stays alert. And here's where it gets interesting. The replaying isn't really about the past moment, it's about control, because social interactions are unpredictable. You can't fully control how people see you, or how they interpret you, or what they remember. And for the brain, that uncertainty feels uncomfortable. So it tries to compensate by going back, replaying, reanalyzing, as if somewhere in that loop, it can find the right version of what should have happened. But it never really does, because the goal isn't clarity. The goal is certainty. And certainty in social situations doesn't fully exist. So the loop continues, not because you don't understand the moment, but because your brain is trying to resolve something that can't be fully resolved. And over time, this pattern starts shaping identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who is awkward, or socially off, or bad at conversations. Not because it's objectively true, but because your mind has shown you so many replays that it starts to feel like evidence. But those replays aren't neutral. They're filtered through a system designed to detect errors, not successes, not neutral moments, errors. So you don't replay the times things went smoothly. You don't replay the conversations where you were liked. You replay the ones that felt uncertain, because that's what your brain is trained to hold on to. And that creates a quiet distortion where your identity is shaped more by what might have gone wrong than by everything that actually went right. When you see it this way, the habit of replaying embarrassing moments stops being random noise. It becomes a pattern, a system built on protection, uncertainty, and learned attention. And once you notice that, you start to see those thoughts differently. Not as truth, but as a signal of how your mind has learned to keep you safe. It was never just overthinking. It was your brain trying to make sense of belonging. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If this explains something you've been quietly experiencing, there's always more to uncover. Understanding yourself is where it begins.